Da, 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 da. Welcome to Off Topic. We are immediately, I haven't even gotten the welcome out yet. Tonight, I'm going to talk about, is it ADHD or autism or both? Um, it would have been nice to have Koda just because they have both, and they could probably give you an inside um, opinion or a look at what it's like to have both of them. I just have ADHD, I'm pretty sure. So I don't think I have autism. But um, I live with two kids that do have both. So as a parent, I can probably tell you some of the things that we go through. But basically, ADHD and autism, they share certain traits. They both have emotional dysregulation. They struggle with executive functioning skills like organization, planning, that kind of thing. They do have sensory issues. So, what they usually say in OT is you're sensory seeking, which is those are the kids that run around and like slam into walls and that kind of stuff, like deep pressure. And then there's sensory avoiding, where kids don't even like, you know, don't like their socks, don't like dirt touching them, that kind of thing. They both have social challenges. I think it's different with each thing. You know, ADHD. If you've got the hyperactive one, then a lot of times social issues you don't understand cues. You're just like jumping in there and whatever, and you're considered to be annoying. And then with autism, it's more like not understanding. They take everything literally, so they're not understanding little nuances or people's expressions and that thing. So and then both of them have meltdowns and shutdowns if they are overwhelmed. So you can have a meltdown where they get extremely angry, cry, throw things, do that kind of stuff. Or you can have a shutdown where they just completely, like, they go blank and they don't even speak. They go nonverbal. So what's kind of weird about having both is there's a lot of stuff that overlaps. So it's not always one or the other. And that's the hardest thing sometimes is trying to figure out um, which side some of these things are coming from. And as a parent, you know, is there a certain way I address things? Now, when Koda was diagnosed, they asked me if I was going to treat them differently or parent them differently, and I said absolutely not. I mean, I'm going to do pretty much the same stuff I've done, just be more aware that some of the things that you're doing, we now understand why, and we can address those. So when you've got ADHD and you've got autism, so ADHD crave novelty. They're searching for that dopamine. They want that hit, so they're going and going, looking for that excitement to boost their dopamine. Autistic people crave routine. They get upset if their schedule changes or there's a quick transition. So those are kind of two differences. The ADHD side is impulsive, as you know if you have a child that they sometimes don't think before they speak, don't think before they act, whereas autistic people are more rigid. So if they do something every day at 4 o'clock and it doesn't happen one day at 4 o'clock, that's going to cause a problem. Now, ADHD, fast talking and distractible. So that's me. And all it takes is someone to mention something, then my brain goes completely down the hill and starts thinking of that subject, or come here to do something on my computer and end up down this rabbit hole on something that's completely unrelated for the reason that I sat down. Um, Now, they say some of the things people talk about is the no contact for autistic people, and that's I think that's true for both. Um, Not every autistic person can't make eye contact, and not every ADHD person can make it. I have a hard time making contact for a long time because then I start thinking about all these things, and then am I staring? Am I not staring? Whatever. Or I get distracted because I'm trying to be attentive and look attentive, and I'm so focused on that I'm not hearing what's happening. Um, and so, you know, both autistic and ADHD can get hyper focused on things. Um, doesn't always mean that they'll get hyper focused on the same thing, but they both get it with with like things that they're really interested in, their passions. Um, they get focused on these, and that's all they want to do. That's all they can talk about. ADHD people have problems following through with things, and that's basically because not that they don't know how, um, but as Dr. Barkley likes to say, it's kind of like a divide in the brain, and the part that has all the knowledge knows what to do, but there's a barrier to get to the front, which is the part that can do it, that implements that thing. So it's not that you don't know, it's just that you can't do. Where um, autistic people have a really hard time shifting attention. So where ADHD people are kind of all over the place, autistic people usually are sometimes have tunnel vision, and that's they have a very hard time stopping something, having a transition. Now, as far as the ways that you are diagnosed, so for ADHD, in the DSM-5, the thing that psychologists use for, doctors use for symptoms, whatever, uh, for ADHD, it ha- it has to happen before age 12. So um, these symptoms had to have appeared before the child turned 12. The symptoms have to be seen in two places. So usually that's home and school. That's a lot of reasons why um, in, kids don't get diagnosed until they're in kindergarten, because you don't have that second setting to know if it's just where they are, or if it's going to happen no matter what, whether their parents there or not. So it has to be two, and it has to have six symptoms of whatever, whichever one, because there's three ADHD types. There's predominantly hyperactive, which is the one that we all think about and think that most boys have, and the inattentive, which is what they've learned about, and they realize that that girls can have ADHD because they have the inattentive one, and the hyperactivity isn't outward; it's usually inward, like anxiety and that kind of thing. And then there's combined. So if you need six for inattentive or hyperactivity, then you need 12 because it's math. 12 to say that they have combined. So that's kind of the generic um, overview. I mean, there's much more involved. That's kind of like as I said, the generic, what do you call it? Diagnosis that a lot of, pediatricians and social workers and that kind of thing kind of go with that. To know all the little nuances, you usually need somebody to do a full neuropsych evaluation, which gives you a lot of information, but it also costs you a lot of money, depending on where you are and if your insurance covers it as a medical expense or not. A lot of times they will not cover it, or they won't cover the parts that are for learning disabilities because they think that's a school based thing. So we won't get into that. That's a whole different subject. As far as autistic diagnosis, so they have to have certain things, and it's not the same as like just checking boxes because they have to have so we're looking for social communication and interactions deficits. So uh, sometimes it's not talking till later, not being able to communicate their needs, not being able to interact with people the same way as a neurotypical kid would, repetitive behaviors or interests. I thought my youngest had it, and so at 2.5, like I couldn't understand him. He had a really bad time with enunciation, and so I did went to um, early intervention, and they said, "Oh no, they're fine. They just need speech." And I'm like, okay, well, that seems really weird because like the kid was doing all the stuff, lining up toys, flipping out if they didn't get to finish something, that kind of stuff. So it wasn't until later that we found out that it was true. Um, Usually, this presents from early development. Um, Usually around 3, I think, is when people start to notice that their kids aren't hitting the milestones that neurotypical kids hit. But as I said, back when my kids were little, I had a totally different view on autism. It was it was more like autism was something that you could see. Like you could. These kids needed much more support, and so then things started coming out, and they were, saying low functioning and high functioning, Asperger's, all that kind of stuff. And so it kind of started to make a little bit more sense as people got to know that there's, with anything like ADHD or autism, there's a spectrum, right? Nobody's gonna, my kids have pretty much the exact same diagnosis and they are completely different kids. So no two ADHD kids are alike, no two autistic kids are alike, no two with both are alike. So, um, but usually it's not too often that I hear that parents don't know, unless they really, they're in denial and they really don't want to know. Um, Usually, as a mom, you can kind of get a sense of what's happening. So this, this starts to have some challenges in their daily functioning and how they're growing and their milestones. And so, with ADHD, they have how severe the levels are. Okay, so you could have mild, you could have moderate, you could have severe. So the mild is there's a few symptoms, there's very low impact on daily functioning. Moderate is a really noticeable impairment in at least one area of executive functioning, whether it's impulse or hyperactivity. Um, and then severe is many symptoms causing a major disruption in their daily activity and their functioning on a day-to-day basis. Now, autistic people, they have changed it, and so now they go by support levels, how much support you're going to need with your child. So level 1, which is what my kids are, they need the least amount of support, but they do need um, some because they mask. They have struggles in social situations and with flexibility, that kind of thing. Then level 2, they need uh, more support. They have more persistent difficulties. And then level 3 is they need very, very high level of support. So when ADHD and autism uh, occur together, so it's pretty common. It's up to 80% of autistic kids also meet the ADHD criteria. Um, and part of the problem is symptoms can mask each other. It, girls and kids that are verbal have very strong verbal skills are often overlooked, which is why you're seeing a much more outpouring of women getting diagnosed for both of these, ADHD and autism, or both, because people in my age bracket and below a little bit, I would say like 30s, 40s, 50s, they're all of a sudden starting to put things together, especially if you have kids that are doing it and you're just kind of like, I did all these things when I was little, and then you finally find out that you have one or both, and things start to fall into place. And so, and it's also important to know that for like you just don't go and get an evaluation and that's it, right? Because kids change over time. So I've had my kids tested, done evaluations a couple of times over the course of their being in school, and the same with when Koda went into college. We went and got a fresh one, renew it. That's also we were looking for the autism. That's when we found out the autism, and that was helpful for getting a accommodations in place in college because you don't get IEPs, but you will get something like a 504, basically a 504, where you can get certain accommodations and assistance, but it has to be they they won't change the curriculum. Like sometimes in schools, they will differentiate and they will change. So if everybody's doing sixth grade science, but there's a kid that is at the fourth grade reading level, then often they will give them the same material, but at a level that they can read, understand. They don't do that in college. So one of the things that I hear a lot is like, I don't want to get a diagnosis because I don't want my kid to be labeled. And I always say to people, they're being labeled anyways, and it's probably not as good, right? Um, so if your kid has like severe ADHD and they're difficult in school, they're going to be labeled hyperactive kid, annoying kid, kid that talks too much, all that kind of stuff. And so that's not great, obviously, for your kid, especially when you kind of you can feel whether people like you or not, or if they are having a problem with you, or how you're treated. You would be treated differently. So that does not do good for a kid's self-esteem. So I always I always say get the diagnosis more for yourself. So Coda wanted to get the diagnosis to see if they had autism, and I was like, okay, well let's just do it because even though they had the diagnosis of ADHD, it didn't. They said there was still stuff that was off that wasn't explained by just that diagnosis, and so they were curious if they would be diagnosed with autism, and that might explain some of the things that they were feeling and going through and all that kind of stuff that just didn't quite make sense. So now I'm pretty sure my youngest has it, but we are going through to get a new evaluation so that we can actually like have it on paper that that's happening. Most doctors and uh, psychiatrists, whatever, have said, yeah, we're pretty certain, but we're doing that just because the more you know about yourself and the more you know about your brain, the easier it is. I don't know if it's easier, but it gives you more information so you can start to work with that, right? So before, like all these people, like I didn't know I had it, and all these women who didn't know they had it, and we all grew up thinking that we were lazy, annoying, obnoxious, all these different things, thinking that they were character flaws, and constantly trying to change that. Like, oh, this is a flaw in me, so I've got to work on it, and I can fix it. When in fact it's not a flaw; it's part of how your brain's wired. So for me, it was kind of like I was happy because now it explained a lot of what had happened in my youth, but I was also a little angry because what could I have done if I had had support and assistance and knew what was going on with me and not feel like it was me and something I had to change? Like, where would I be now? So I think a lot of adults that get diagnosed later in life kind of go through all those feelings, and you look at other people and you're like, why is that so easy for them? Like, what? I'm smart. I can do, like, why can't I do what I see other people doing? So no matter when you get diagnosed, it's still kind of a struggle. And you also, but when you learn more about your brain, then you're easy. There's easier ways. You're able to adapt better. You're able to find solutions where you may not have had them. That kind of thing. So as far as getting diagnosis, if you can do it, and uh, insurance will pay for it, or you can find somebody that will do one. I found a woman who was excellent, but it was $2,000 out of pocket for each kid, and that's was like doable for our. I wouldn't say doable. We just didn't have $4,000 laying around, but we were able to figure out how we were gonna do that. And I know that not everybody has that privilege. So um, sometimes you have to just go with the diagnosis you can get through a pediatrician or a therapist or something like that, because that's usually at least affordable because of insurance if you have it. Okay, now as a parent with kids with both, as I said, um, I didn't really change a lot of what I was doing as far as parenting. So instead, I did pretty much the same thing, but now with that extra information, knowing that certain things was because of this, I was able to do a little bit more, or I understood more about what was happening, why the behavior was happening, because I had that added information. So one of the things is I definitely you need to prioritize connection with your kid before anything else. So if they do something wrong, or misbehave, or however you want to say it, to jump in right away and start yelling or lecturing and all that kind of stuff is not going to work. So if you connect with them first and get them to be calmer or anything to that effect, like, what do I mean? So a lot of times when my kids are having a hard time, um, and I want to lecture them, um, I have to remind myself, no, I got to step back for that, and then I will I'll usually say is there anything I can do right now to help this situation? They don't always have an answer, but at least I'm trying to connect. And a lot of times I'll say, okay, well, do you want me to just stay here until you can talk to me? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So trying to get your kid's nervous system from being dysregulated so that you can address what just happened. So we want to look at what's behind the behavior. So usually, any kind of behavior is usually communication. So if they're doing something, they're communicating to you that there's a need that is not being met, and they don't know how to handle it or fix it or do it. And so they need your assistance to help them figure that out. So you are kind of their frontal lobe. And that that's going to continue for quite some time. As your kids get older, they will start to get better at certain things, but they are not going to, you know, the 21 year old across the street that is neurotypical is not going to be in the same spot that your 21-year-old kid with autism and ADHD. It's just a fact. And I think all of that stuff, those timelines, whatever, that's just made up, right? Um, they just made up this system that you start school at this point, you have these amount of grades. When you get to this point, you're done, and then you can move on or not. And um, you know who said who said that you have to start kindergarten at 5 if you're not ready? Who says that you have to be, graduate at 17 or 18? Uh, Everybody goes at their own pace, and our kids are going to go at a different pace than the majority, the middle of the road people. They're going to go along and be just fine. It's the ones that are above and below that middle row there that have the hardest time because either they're way advanced in certain things and they're bored and they just don't they're not given enough to keep their mind stimulated, or you have the other kids that are slower on some of the things that can't um, do it at the same pace, and so they're having problems. And because of the way everything's set up, we want every kid to be on this conveyor belt no matter what. And so these kids often get, um, sometimes they fall through the cracks, other times they just, they end up becoming the bad kids, the troubled kids, those kind of things. And it's just because their needs aren't being met by the school system because of the way it's set up. So I tell my kids all the time, you do your path at your own pace. So you don't have to go to a 4-year college and graduate in 4 years. Um, if it takes you 7 years, that's fine. If you're doing the work and you're advancing and you can't take more than 2 classes a semester, that's fine. There's no rule that you have to do it in this timeline. There's no rule that you have to go down that path. There's no real rule. There's just expectations that society and people before us, those kind of things that they had set up because it would be really difficult to have this whole school system and have kids all different ages. I mean, they used to do that and it seemed to work out fine, but now you're got like you know 25 kids in a classroom as opposed to the little schoolhouse which had like 12. So um, we want to support regulation. So that's what I was talking about, not just behavior control. So we want to get them when this is happening. They're going into the defense mode and they need to be able to get regulated before you can do anything. Koda's here. So I was cruising through this
I
um,
heard, I heard.
because I don't have both. So
Oh, I
I just
do.
was going from a parent point of view. Um, I was saying, like, how remember how when you got diagnosed, you said, "Are you going to treat me differently? Are you going to do anything
That
differently?"
was one of my biggest worries, cause I'd been. I'm like
You're
not.
rolling away.
I'm not in here.
Yeah.
I had been very anxious because I was like, oh, I think I might have autism, cause like.
Sorry, I've been talking for half an hour.
I know. I was like, I think I might have autism because, my friends have been pointing out like symptoms and I've been doing my research, and then I was like, I need to get a diagnosis to like know for sure, cuz like um I really wanted to be sure that that's what it was. I didn't want to just go around being like, I have autism when I didn't know if I did or not.
But you said that there were some things that were still going on that weren't explained by the ADHD,
Yeah,
right?
like some of my um meltdowns I think were more autism because with my ADHD, like, yes, sensory goes hand in hand with ADHD too. Like, people, you can have sensory issues and not have
Mm-hmm.
ADHD or um autism. It's like a whole completely separate different thing. But I was struggling a lot with it, and like, even with my focus being really good because of my meds, I still couldn't do certain tasks, and I wasn't sure what that was, and I felt kind of mentally set back, and I didn't really know what that was. Um, but now I know I have autism, it's kind of been easier to be more patient with myself.
So, what was the like? How did that solve some of the problems, or make you feel like you now knew more?
So, I think the biggest thing with autism and ADHD being like comorbid is like things you do for one might not be things you do for the other, you know what I mean? So, like, you know, with my ADHD, I'm like, okay, here's things that'll help me focus, like, here's fidget stuff, and here's that, and here's my meds, and um, this is what I can say to kind of refocus my brain. But with autism, it's like when you're sick and you have a cold or and it turns into an ear infection or something, if you're still treating just the cold, it's not going to make the ear infection necessarily go away.
Mm-hmm.
You need something special to take care of the ear infection. So if you don't go to the doctor and don't find out that, like, oh, I have an ear infection, you're just going to keep treating the cold and it's still going to like linger there. Like, maybe ibuprofen will help the pain or
Yeah.
something, but it won't take away the infection. um with the autism, I needed to start treating it like autism, you know what I mean? I needed to start recognizing, like, here's my patterns of what causes a meltdown, what causes this and that, and like, what are my triggers, what are the things that help. How can I talk to myself differently instead of constantly beating myself up for feeling like I'm not mentally where I should be.
Mm-hmm.
um because, like, yes, ADHD people can have overstimulation and like shutdowns and stuff like that, but I feel like autistic meltdowns are a little bit different.
I think it explains some of the times where you guys went nonverbal because I was like,
Yeah,
"What the heck?"
that was one of the other things, is like,
Like you,
I don't think
what
many
you were just
people.
talking. Why can't you talk now?
Right. And another thing that it helped with a lot is understanding my social relationships a lot better. Like, cuz with ADHD, like, we already have a hard time with socializing
Mm-hmm.
because we'll talk too fast or too much, and like we'll mess up words and not really think through what we're doing and stuff like that. But with the autism, I was very unaware for most of the beginning of school when I was getting bullied. Like, I didn't realize that that was bullying, and I didn't realize when people were being sarcastic or joking with me, and I was like, "Oh, I'm stupid. Like, I missed that. I'm
Mm.
dumb." No, it's just also sometimes people are really not as good at it as they think they are. Like, the thing is with bullying is like it definitely did affect me, but like it didn't affect me so much when the kids did it because like, you know, I just thought they were playing around. But when a teacher does it to you, you kind of know because like they're supposed to be supportive, so when they start saying things that are like that's kind of mean. Like it feels like I feel like this is mean, but also what if I'm being dramatic? Like not
Yeah.
grasping those social
Always
cues.
second guessing yourself and stuff.
And figuring out how to navigate and like ask for more clarification because I need that, and like understanding that I might need more description of um tasks and like step-by-step breakdowns and all these kinds of things because my brain is so imaginative yet so logical, and it like clashes, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So like you can like look at a task and be like, "Oh, this is what I need to do. Here are the steps I need to do it in." But my brain is like, "Well, here's what I need to do." And the ADHD part of me is like, "Well, that's a really big task and it's just like I have to just do it." Like it looks at it as one big
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like and then my autism is like, "Okay, well, here's all of the different ways you could possibly do this task and how it could go wrong and how you could do it wrong. But also, what if this makes this happen?" And it's just like this like pinboard of like a bunch of different scenarios that could happen,
Mm-hmm.
or like all of the different things I need to do that after that kind of build up to, and it's just it makes tasks so much like more difficult. Like one task I think I've mastered really well is like my laundry. Like I can break that down easy now. Like that one's a little bit easier for me to do. It's still a daunting task to take on
Yeah.
because
Because you have
first of
so
all,
much of it.
because I have so much of it, and also my ADHD is impatient and doesn't like to wait. So putting the laundry in and then having to walk away is the worst thing because I forget it
Yeah.
exists. Like if I can't see it.
Yeah. And yeah, and it's not like it's. I think it's just so weird that some tasks I can completely break down, and
Some are
other
just
tasks
really
I
hard. It's
can't.
so weird because like
And if it's somebody else's task,
right,
I
that's
can
the
totally come into your house and be like, oh, we need to do this, this,
and
this,
the
and
other
this,
thing
but I can't do it in my own
with
home.
autism is phone calls are a big thing because it's really funny because I can do phone calls for my friends' appointments, but like when I go to do mine, I like freak out. And like I don't know why. Like I've only done a phone call for like someone's appointment one time, but like it's just really funny because it's like the thing is I have scripted responses for like specific things. Like I'm like, okay, logistically here are the questions they're gonna ask me, but people are people and they'll go off the script in my brain and then I freak out
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, oh well, what do I do now? Like uh-huh. And like suddenly every like normal thought or logical thought or any information I've ever had about myself leaves my brain. Like
Yeah,
they could just ask me what's my name, and like the first question is what's my name instead of hi, how are you, and I'd be like, I don't know my name, who am I?
yeah. My problem is that I just want the appointment. I don't want to have to explain and give you this whole backstory to get the appointment. And
Right.
also, I don't, I look at my calendar and I'm like, where am I going to fit this in? And I'm already trying to figure out what day because sometimes they'll ask you, is there a better day for you? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it
I
depends on the
hate,
days and the
you
times.
know,
Like,
ones
so
I hate the most
that's
are
why I hate calling.
the ones I hate the most are dentists, because why do you have to make them so far out? Because, like, what if something happens? Like, that's what stresses me out so bad.
That's just to keep you on the 6 month schedule.
Right?
So,
Like, that
but
stresses me
that's,
out, like, hella bad. Because I'm like, do people have their months planned out in,
yeah,
like,
some people do, I guess. But they always
months
ask,
and
like, is there
months?
a better day for you in January 2026? I'm like, I don't know. Pick a day. I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. Like, I just pick a
Genuinely,
day, and
it's
if I have
hard.
to move it, I'll
And
move
I
it.
was just talking to my friends about appointments because they were trying to get a haircut at, which is already a big thing for autistic people. Haircuts are really big. Um, and I know it's really big with my friend group specifically, but my friend was like, I don't want to call them. I hate calling. I would like to see all of my available days in front of me and pick one
Yeah.
and pick what kind of haircut I want instead of having to try to explain what I want and blah blah blah. And they found this place, um, and they could do it online, and they did a lot online.
Oh, you
And
can book it online? Is that the place
yes,
that you went to?
yes, and it's
Okay.
this like neurodivergent emo girl
Oh.
who like is really into nerd stuff, and she's really cool and very sensory friendly, like very respectful of like what people want and like understanding like how much of a difference and like stuff like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
they were really friendly about it, which is great, especially because my friend has really bad anxiety because they've gotten so many bad haircuts in the past that they're just like they started doing it themselves. But they were like, I want to go really short and I don't trust myself to chop it off. My problem with haircuts is like I hate the social aspect of it.
The same with the
Like,
dentist. Why are you talking to me with your hands in your
why are you
mouth?
talking to me with your hands in your mouth? And also, when you're cutting my hair and you have a razor like at my
Like, I
head,
want you paying attention.
I'm like sitting there like because I'm trying not to move or flinch or do anything. So if you're talking to me and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, it's because I can hear and feel everything and I hate it.
Yeah, when I get my hair cut, and and he's talking, and whatever, and I'm like, are you paying
Do
attention to
you
how
know what you're
short to make
doing
this,
at
or
all? Like,
what? I mean, I know that he does, and he usually does a good job, but sometimes I'm like, are you really
right? And like I
paying
get it's
attention?
probably like second nature at that
Oh yeah,
point, like
probably.
they've done it so much, but it's so stressful because I'm like, can you please, you have a razor right next to my ear, can you please like stop and like lock in and like pay
I'm gonna
attention?
open my own shop. I'm getting pretty good.
Yeah, you are. um
I can shave people's heads very well.
you know, I'd probably get a lot of money. All the bald people would come to you
If they're bald, why?
to get their head bald again.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah. Okay, I'm like,
Open a
what's a
bald
bald
hair
barber
shop.
shop and you just shine their head?
Yeah, wax it. Yeah, but I think the biggest thing with my autism diagnosis was it really helped me understand how to treat myself. And I feel like it gave me a lot of patience with myself, more so than I had before. Um, because my biggest thing was I felt crazy because there was all these things that were happening that I couldn't solve. Like I couldn't figure out what to do about them or how to fix them. And so getting a diagnosis kind of made me be like, oh, I don't need to fix it, just take care of it. Like, this is how like, I can't fix or get rid of my autism, but I can take care of it and myself and know what to do in what kinds of situations, what I need to avoid, how to communicate to people when I can't communicate. Like, it taught me all these things that I kind of didn't have the tools to do. Um, and like navigating it was very helpful for learning patience, I think,
Hmm.
for myself. And I think that's true for parenting in general, especially with a neurodivergent kid, is it takes so much patience. And that's really hard, especially if you have ADHD and because like patience is like not a strong suit.
Yeah, or if they're doing stuff that is a trigger for you,
Mm-hmm.
and so you're supposed to be the level-headed one and the role model and whatever.
And see, I
Um,
think like like I know my rocking back and forth. You hate when I rock back and forth out of the corner of your eye or something.
it's distracting to see something moving continuously next to you.
And
I
like,
try to.
but like I think the thing is like um like dad um he probably has freaking autism, but I don't think he has ADHD. You know what I mean?
You don't think so?
I don't know. Maybe a little bit, but like the thing is like I think the reason why I really think he has autism is because it's like all of the stuff that I do that he comments on are exact things that he does, and he doesn't see them, or he misses my tone all the time, which also I'm not great at controlling my tone,
Yeah.
but
Well, he only has one tone.
yeah, which is yelling. But like also autism is genetic, and if I didn't get it from you, like
Like, I don't feel like I have it. Like, I don't feel like
no.
I have all those markers. Like, sometimes, and this is what pisses me off,
See,
people,
I think what
is
you
when people
have
like, oh,
is
we all have a little bit of ADHD. We
I
all have a
hate
little.
when
I
people say
hate when
that.
people say that
No,
because
because
it
you either
diminishes what we are going through, what those people are going through. It diminishes.
no,
It makes it.
just
That's why so many people don't really believe in ADHD
or they
or
don't think
don't
it's
think
as serious
it's a
as it is.
serious. It just.
It's so dumbed down to like, oh, you can't focus and you bounce around a lot. Like
Uh,
but it's actually really like debilitating because it can make it hard to get a job because you can't keep a job for long because you can't focus at work, or like you are
I
having problems with behavior at work or something like
I
that. Like
usually it was usually like 2 years, and then I started getting bored with what I was doing,
that's
and
fair. See, my biggest problem was the autism in the workplace, I think, because I think my sensory issues are tied mainly to my autism. I don't think it's my ADHD as much because with my ADHD, I'm very sensory seeking. At the same
that's what
time,
I
I'm really
that's
sensory adverse.
right, and that
Like,
was what was so weird when you were younger, and it makes sense now, but I
mhm.
was like, gosh, you're so sensory seeking,
But also
but
I
then there's
hate
so
things.
many
Like,
sensitivity things,
the
and I
thing
was like,
is like
I mean, I guess you could be.
when I hate a thing, like it's when I'm like adverse to something, I'm really adverse to it. Like I like with my the bathroom cleaning thing, I
Yeah.
it's such a bad aversion, like I can't do it. But like I'll like I don't know, I'll like climb crap and like hang upside down and like all these other things that like give me a
Yeah,
specific sensory like, but
like
like then I get a
you're so
headache and
afraid
I'm like
of germs and getting sick and
mm-hmm.
whatever, but
But
you
then
know,
I'm outside in the dirt
right, or you're
digging,
you've
or I'm
got dishes
picking up,
everywhere or whatever, and they're gonna
or I'm picking up bugs and
yeah.
like
So yeah, it doesn't
it's
make sense.
so clashing. Like that's the thing with ADHD and autism is they clash. They don't really work together. Like, depression and anxiety kind of work together like in a weird way. Like I feel like my anxiety, I get really anxious and then I also get very
So
depressed and they
here's the
kind of
thing that
flow together.
I think that if you can go through bouts of depression, but
But you're
when
like,
when you have anxiety, you have anxiety. Like,
yeah.
you don't get rid of it. Where you can have depression and work through it and get out the other side, but anxiety is gonna
And like
stay.
even so like there's depression where like I think mine is clinical like where it's all the time, but you can get to a point where it's not debilitating. With anxiety, like you have to actively do something most days to like tackle, like I feel like it depends on what kind of anxiety you have, I guess, but like with my anxiety, I feel like at least once a day I have to kind of, it's been more so lately, but like
I was gonna say once a day.
once a day usually on like when I'm consistent and
Yeah.
everything's regular and not where I'm at right now, but I'll have to be like, okay, I'm being anxious right now. Like, I need to not and like do my techniques to kind of calm it down. Um, but like with depression, I definitely have episodes of it where like I get really depressed and then I'm fine, and then I get really depressed and then I'm fine. Or like one day I'm depressed and the next day I'm
See,
fine.
I don't think it's depression. I think it's the part of ADHD and autism is the highs and lows.
But
So
also I
depression,
think,
you've got to have it for consistently for like 6 weeks.
which I
To
did.
be yes, but I'm saying,
But
but to say um, you like constantly living with depression, it's more because of the way our system is that we're either on or we're off, and it's sometimes
yeah,
really hard
I
because you
think
have these
like
huge
I think like people
gaps.
with ADHD have like a special kind of depression. You know what I mean? Like, cuz I think it's definitely depression. Like I do
It's
get
like,
depressed.
you've got an on off switch, but you're not controlling it. So
Yeah.
you're like, and somebody just flicks the light, and you're like, oh, turns off the light, and you're,
Cuz so
you
my
know?
problem and why I was on my depression medicines like medication in the first place, like the extra one, was because whenever I'd like exist like without it, I just feel like this underlying, it kind of felt like I needed to cry all the time. Like you just kind of have that like really sad
Mm-hmm.
feeling, and like your throat feels sad, your eyes feel sad, like all that. Like it was like that all the time, but like more minimal, you know what I mean? And then when I started taking my meds, I didn't feel that anymore. And after going off them, I'm like, "Oh, like I don't feel that anymore." So like I think I've gotten to a place where I have kind of been able to keep my like dopamine levels up more, and my serotonin levels up more, um, than I was before, because like that my medication, like my one pill is
Yeah.
enough. Um, but like recently I've been struggling with it a little bit more. But like the thing with ADHD and like autism, and the problem with autism, I think, is like there's I don't care what anyone says, there's still so much stigma of like what autism is supposed to look like,
Mm-hmm.
and it bothers me. And I think the autism level things kind of bother me too. Like I wish they would just diagnose some people with autism spectrum. Like I get why they
So,
have the levels,
right, they
but
have to kind of break it up so that there's a way to figure out what kind of support is needed, I guess.
I
I don't
think
know.
that's the other thing that's frustrating, is because like someone with level 1 autism like
Oh,
me
hi.
could need something completely different from another person with level 1 autism. You know what I mean? And that's what
But
kind of is a
and I don't know
little
where the levels cut off.
right.
That's the thing. And so there's obviously more to a diagnosis than just being like you're one and you're two and you're, you know, um, and as I said, everybody, your diagnosis could be exactly the same as somebody else's, and it's still going to be different. So, but that's, I think, the easiest way to explain to people that they're in this category, and what they used to be called, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure, like, the psychologists and the,
Yeah, I'm sure
you know
there's like an
they they,
understanding, but
they know more than us just being like, you're one. You're
right? And I'm like, can I level up? Like, is that a thing that can happen? Like, that was one
and
of my
that's the
biggest
thing,
things. It's
because
like,
one is the least, and
yeah,
three is the most. So
I
it's
think,
almost
yeah.
like three should three is the people that have the
Like, why are you like,
most.
you are like mega autism. You have completed all 3 levels.
It's not like a
It's like,
it's not like a game where you go
right?
and you don't want to level up.
Right, yeah. And
Yeah.
like, that's the thing. I'm like, because like, I know there's things you can do to kind of become more functioning, and you know what I mean? Like, like solo functioning, like where you can kind of have less and less support needs, if that's a possibility. Like I feel like level 2 can go down to level 1, but I also don't know what the criteria for level 2 is. So
Yeah,
like that's the thing, is like
right.
I don't know where it is, like
And is it based on, like, a lot of it's based on how does it affect your daily living? And so if it's really affecting your daily living, but you get the right support and the help, can you are you still level 2 if you can now function more on day-to-day activities? Or
right. And like
I think that's a whole different,
yeah, that's probably a whole different thing, but
and we're not doctors, so.
yeah, no, and I don't know the DSM or whatever the hell. But yeah, no, with I think the biggest issue I've had with ADHD and autism is how much they don't work together. Like they're comorbid, but they hate each other. Like it's kind of like a co-parenting situation when you really don't like the
Oh,
other person, but the other person really likes you. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like I
or
feel like
well, co-parent,
ADHD
yeah, you could.
really likes autism, but autism doesn't like
It's like,
ADHD.
ADHD is the fun parent, and autism is the strict responsible parent kind of thing.
Yeah. And like that's why I'm like I feel like you and dad are like the perfect example of like autism and ADHD, is because dad is like he has like a very specific way he does everything and blah 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 blah, and then you're just like, if it works it works, and he's like
Nobody died.
but it's like, but the thing is it's like having a dad in my head all the time, I guess.
Sorry.
I know. But like the thing is like, because like the most frustrating part is that I really want to like have systems that I do things, and I do have systems that I in which I do things, but my ADHD hates systems and routines and whatever. But and like the thing is like, you know, I'll always come to you and I'll be like, I have like my routines off, my routines off. But the problem is like I don't actually have a routine. It's just
But you
I
know
do
something's off.
similar things every single day.
And that's what
And
they're
when
saying, like, attach
one
it to
thing is
habits. And
off,
most of my habits are not the ones that I want.
right?
Right? So it's like, attach this, in the morning, I want to do this, this, and this. And in the morning instead, like when I was pregnant, I don't know if it was with you or Dante.
What time
Um,
do you have to leave?
well, no, he's going to be late. So,
Oh yeah, yeah,
so when I was pregnant with one of my children, I had such a hard time breaking out of this routine where I would come downstairs, I would have, my breakfast and stuff, and then I would have to watch. So maybe I'm autistic. Then I had to watch this certain set of shows, and it would be like I had to watch like the um, the nanny, the Golden Girls, and the Designing Women, and so I would do nothing like from 6 to 10. I mean, I would get. I think
yeah.
I don't. I think I had you,
See
but I don't
now,
know. I just couldn't get out of this thing, and I was like, never started my day before 10 a.m. And I'm like, this is wrong. This is wrong. I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do it. And I kept telling myself, you're going to come downstairs, and you're not going to turn on the TV. And then I was like, all of a sudden, like,
right? It's like
and
a
so
little
it took me
magnet.
so long. And Dad's just like, well, just don't do it. And I was like, they don't understand. I'm stuck.
What he
I'm
doesn't
stuck.
what
I'm
he
stuck. I'm
doesn't
stuck. I'm
realize
stuck.
is he does stuff like that too. Like
Mm-hmm.
he wakes up at the same time every day. He has his coffee or whatever.
Well, that's kind of, you get into that because of work.
Yes, but like
But
that's a routine. Like and like that's the thing. And also,
but like, yeah, coming home,
whenever he gets home, he'll like go out, have a cigar or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he does his routines. He just doesn't realize that like sometimes our routines aren't
right.
what his are, so
Right.
he can't really process it. And like the other thing is like now you're like, oh, I do the Wordle, I do the connections, I
Right,
play my
I
little
can't
game.
stop. I have 4 games I can do.
But
That's
those-
that's my new
But
TV.
that takes a little bit less time than TV, I think. Like, I don't think you. Because, like, you're starting your days earlier. Like, you're doing stuff. It's just like, it's not. You're like, because I feel like sitting and watching a TV show, like, sometimes they're like 40 or like
Yeah,
50
no, they were
minutes. Like,
usually no. It was usually like they were all half-hour shows.
oh my god.
So an hour and a half or something like that. But yeah, I still tell myself, you know what? I have not been doing um, because Dad is not home. Is when he's home and he's not like working from home, he immediately turns on the TV in the morning, and I don't want it on. I don't want to hear the news. I don't want to. I have not really turned on the TV
Yeah,
at
I'll come downstairs and you're just on your phone.
yeah,
Like,
and
or I'll come upstairs, I guess.
I think I maybe watched like two movies.
See,
Um,
I don't have the attention span for shows most of the time unless I'm fixated on them. Like, I can't watch shows that people tell me to watch
yeah,
because I need to be like fixated on it, and which is why I've been like rewatching the same two shows over and over and over again for the past month. Um so I've just been watching Gumball over and over and over again. Um or I'll have like I like to have the TV on for noise, but I don't really like to watch it. Like I want to be doing an activity I want to be doing, but I hate sitting in silence. You
see,
know what I mean?
I
So like if I'm like when I was doing my art the other day, I just had the TV on so that I could have noise. It's kind of like having music on for me,
but it's so weird because I don't like anything on.
which is yeah, I can't like
Which
you clean in complete silence, which is really weird to me. I can't do that.
because I don't know, and even like
I
we're
think
doing
I'm
the
just so used to noise all the time that and I know that I'm doing something that's not stimulating for my brain, so I need the extra stimulation, you know what I mean? Like if I'm doing something boring like folding clothes or something, like I will easily just lay down and do something that's more fun and stimulating for my brain.
hmm.
But since I am like if I'm doing art, I just like to have something on in the background that I can kind of, listen to cuz like art's kind of mindless for me. Like I just kind of do it and I'm like so I like to have something
Yeah, no, Dad's cooking. He's got stuff blasting, whatever, and I'm just like, can we just?
like and like sometimes I'll do art in silence. Like sometimes I'll do art just kind of sitting there or like I'll put on music or something like that. Um but I think I'm just so used to being surrounded by loud people all the time that if I don't have that, it feels really empty and like also if I don't have that, I start getting anxious. So like
So you just want me to come down and start screaming and yelling?
not particularly, no. But you do that anyway sometimes. So like
Yeah,
um
when I get bored.
but yeah, no, and that's the thing with like I think my ADHD is like I need that little boost of like stuff to fill like keep my brain stimulated. And like doing art is very stimulating for me, but I kind of get in this like groove. It's kind of like a meditative process. Like
So that's what me. That's me, and I don't want noise.
yeah, see, so that's the thing though. It's like when people will put on guided meditation or something like that. That's kind of what it feels like when I'm doing art with like the TV on. Is like I put that on and I kind of just zone out to it and do my thing and I kind of get in this little
I think having stuff on
groove.
distracts me, so then I will just keep stopping and stopping. So that's why maybe
Yeah,
I
maybe.
don't know. We've gone over an hour.
Oh yeah. Well, I came in and started derailing everything.
Yeah. Any parting words before we go?
um, Autism and ADHD are difficult and they suck to have together sometimes. Um, but and like you don't if you don't want to get a diagnosis for autism, don't like you don't have to. Um, but it's definitely good to get research done and like if you're like, wow, my kid has autism, and I feel like I resonate a lot with a lot of the stuff they're going through. You don't necessarily need a diagnosis, but you can kind of just maybe learn some tactics from them or something like that. And also, like,
It depends on if you want to know and not just assume and have
yeah.
answers, like you did,
Hmm. I
versus.
feel like ADHD, you need a very, like, patient approach, and autism, you need a very direct and patient approach. You know what I mean? Like, with ADHD, you need to have the patience to keep reminding, or, like, you know, dealing with the hyperness and stuff like that, and the sensory seeking and the dopamine and serotonin seeking and all that. And then with autism, you need to learn what the triggers are, and like how to manage them. So it both take
Oh,
patient, but also just like, especially I feel like especially if you're neurotypical and have a kid who's neurodivergent. Like, I don't know how y'all do that.
I don't either.
Because it's like you, I feel like the reason you understand me is because you can kind of relate to some of the stuff that I'm going through, and the stuff that you can't relate to, you find ways to understand.
Yeah, I think it's definitely helps, because when I explained certain things to neurotypical people, they were like, "Okay, I never. That's a thing." And I'm
Right.
like, "Yeah," and you can't understand it because it would be very difficult for you to put yourself in
Place,
that
because you've
place.
never done it.
But if you know that this is something that is because of this, and that it happens with a lot of people that have ADHD, then sometimes it's easier for the neurotypical parent not to get mad, like not to
Right,
have
and
the
I feel
patient.
like that's the thing is like, that's part of the reason why most of my friends are neurodivergent, is because they can understand and not get frustrated with me. And when they do get frustrated with me, they come to me about it and are like, hey, you said this thing that really kind of hurt my feelings. Were you mad at me, or were you just overstimulated? Or like, did something just happen? And then we talk it out. Like, because a lot of the time, as if you're overstimulated, you can like snap at people or whatever. And I think part of the benefits is like, don't take a lot of stuff that happens personally, because most of the time, like, aggression or like outbursts are not really directed at you. They're just kind of building up and they need a release. um but what was I gonna say? I had a thing I wanted to say before I was like, bye. But oh yeah, and the worst thing you can do is compare to other people's experiences. Like, comparing your child to another child is like very harmful, and try to avoid it. Um, because especially if you compare someone else's autism to your autism, because it's not going to look the same,
Hmm.
and neither is ADHD. Um, so kind of accepting, with kids, especially with ADHD, you kind of have to come to terms with the fact that your kid is not like other kids, and they're their own person, and like really focus on that. Because with ADHD, everyone's always telling us how we're messing up or stuff like that. So you need to be the safe place for your kid.